Arc Warlock got some really big buffs this season, especially in Act 2. The abilities, the supers! And with Trials of the Nine right around the corner and Heresy Act 3 in full swing, I'm going to show you the best iteration of Arc Warlock Destiny has ever seen. So hang on to your butts and let's go. Now, in case you haven't played Warlock at all this episode, there is an exotic armor/aspect combination that is running wild. If you already know about this combo, feel free to skip ahead to the next section. Okay, I think they left. The combo I'm talking about is Geomag Stabilizers and Ionic Sentry. Geomags refund super energy when you hit enemies with Chaos Reach, making it last about 50% longer. But it also got two changes in Heresy. First, sprinting with 6 or more stacks of the new keyword Bolt Charge generates more Bolt Charge. Second, collecting Ionic Traces now gives 7% super energy. So every 14 or so Ionic Traces you get, you can have your Chaos Reach super back. And there are a lot of different ways we're getting Ionic Traces in this build. Second, the new Warlock aspect Ionic Sentry. Getting ability kills will charge up a turret that you can throw, and it creates a blinding explosion on impact and then chains electricity to all enemies nearby. That will be important for reasons we'll talk about in a minute. But first, let's talk about Ionic Traces. Because the more traces you spawn, the more abilities and Chaos Reach supers you're going to have. So we already talked about Ionic Sentry, but our second aspect is actually much more important: Electrostatic Mind. Defeating targets with arc abilities or jolted or blinded enemies creates Ionic Traces. And just as a reminder, each trace that you collect gives you 15% to your grenade, melee, and class ability energy. This creates our gameplay loop that we'll add to with our fragments, abilities, and exotic. For fragments, you want the Spark of Discharge. Arc weapon final blows have a chance to create an Ionic Trace, so getting arc weapon kills spawns Ionic Traces. There is a hidden counter system that spawns a trace when you reach like 100%. Basically, killing minor combatants gives 34% progress, elites and players are 67%, and mini-bosses and bosses are 100%. You also want the Spark of Ions, so defeating jolted enemies or defeating enemies with Bolt Charge spawns an Ionic Trace. And you already know how strong Bolt Charge is in this episode. Then you want two perks from your artifact. The first is Dielectric, and the base effect is okay, getting Bolt Charge for killing arc debuffed enemies. But the boost will spawn an orb of power when you get 3 arc debuffed kills within 6 seconds. And that orb gives you another 7% of your super. Second, the new perk Elemental Siphon. This is going to spawn an Ionic Trace when you get rapid kills with a weapon matching your super. But that's not all, because the boost to this perk reads that collecting an elemental pickup matching your subclass grants bonus super energy. Now, this is only an additional 3%, but any additional super energy is okay in my book. And as you're watching the gameplay, just look at the number of traces and orbs we're creating. Now that we have ways of creating traces, it's time to fill out the rest of our build. For abilities, you should use either the Flashbang or the Pulse Grenades. Personally, I prefer the Flashbang because the base cooldown is only 91 seconds. But with how many traces you're getting, you'll almost always have a grenade available when you need it. And we're pairing our grenade with the Spark of Shock, so our grenades can jolt enemies. This will trigger Electrostatic Mind as well, since we're blinding and jolting entire rooms of enemies. I also use the Ball Lightning melee for a bit of range, and a Healing Rift for survivability. For the final fragment slot, I took Spark of Brilliance, so defeating blinded targets with precision damage creates a blinding explosion. But you could use a different fragment. The final piece to our build is the new exotic Lodestar. I'll be honest, I totally slept on this weapon after that live stream. But after spending hours and hours playing and comparing it to special options like Cold Hard and Delicate Tomb, this is 100% my top choice. To start, Lodestar is a primary ammo trace rifle, and as someone who has run out of special ammo, more than I would like to admit, I like not having to worry. Second, Lodestar's alternate firing mode jolts enemies, which activates Electrostatic Mind, Spark of Discharge, Spark of Ions, and Dielectric from the artifact. Now, Cold Heart periodically generates an ionic trace. Delicate Tomb will generate ionic traces on kills. For me, I'd rather have an infinite ammo weapon that synergizes with my subclass. Now for the artifact, there are 9 perks you will want turned on, and you're definitely going to want number 9. Now, we already talked about Dielectric and Elemental Siphon. The third perk is Overclock and Load and gives us additional handling and reload speed when we're amplified. Perk number 4 is Flashover, and it makes us amplified when we reach 10 stacks of Bolt Charge and increases the damage of Bolt Charge strikes by 150%. Number 5 is Defibrillating Blast. This causes Bolt Charge strikes to jolt and gives us a flat 55 HP. The final 4 perks are all on the bottom row. Overload Trace Rifle is self-explanatory. Stuns Overload champions overcharged when the perk is active. Beam Medic restores some of our health when we get Trace Rifle multi-kills. Harsh Refraction is going to give us bonus trace damage when we shoot enemies affected by matching elemental debuffs. And on exotics like Lodestar, this is a 35% buff for 4 seconds. And since all of our enemies are either jolted or blinded, we have this up very, very often. Our final perk is Limit Break, and this is going to increase the damage of our super when we are critically wounded or we have an element matching buff. So all we need is to have stacks of Bolt Charge or be amplified to take full advantage of a free 30% buff to Chaos Reach. And to be honest, you'll be either amplified or have Bolt Charge almost constantly. For our armor mods, there are a few essentials. On the helmet, Harmonic Siphon, so Lodestar can create orbs of power, and Ashes to Assets, so when we get a kill with our grenades, we get some bonus super energy. On the gloves, Firepower, your grenade final blows create orbs of power. Impact Induction, causing damage with a powered melee attack reduces your grenade cooldown. Our chest is mostly just resistance mods, and you can change these based on the activity. On the boots, Recuperation, replenishing health each time you pick up an orb of power. This is a free 70 HP on orb pickup. And 2 copies of Arc Surge, so Lodestar hits even harder. On the Bond, Reaper, so we use our class ability, our next weapon kill spawns an orb of power. Bomber, so we get some grenade energy back when using our class ability, and 1 copy of Powerful Attraction, so that we will automatically collect orbs when we cast our Rift. I'm headed back into the game now. Let me know if you enjoyed this video by giving it a thumbs up. It tells YouTube to recommend it to more Guardians just like you. GG, Fire Team.